Ishmael is a significant figure in sacred scriptures, especially in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions. His story is primarily recorded in the Old Testament of the Bible and in the Quran. Ishmael was the firstborn son of Abraham and Hagar, the servant of Sarah, Abraham's wife. The story of Ishmael is intrinsically linked to the divine promise made to Abraham that he would be the father of a great nation. In Genesis 12:2, God says to Abraham, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." In this declaration, God is speaking directly to Abraham, promising to make him the father of a great nation, blessing him, and making his name famous. This promise is fundamental to understanding the context in which Abraham and Sarah lived and the circumstances that led to Ishmael's conception as an attempt to fulfill this divine promise. Before we continue, I ask that you help us spread this video by subscribing to the channel and leaving your like. I am sure God will reward you double. Abraham and Sarah were elderly when they received the divine promise. Their advanced age made the promise even more extraordinary, as natural conception seemed improbable. Additionally, Sarah had been barren since her youth, which aggravated the situation. The inability to conceive was a constant source of sadness and challenge for the couple. The prolonged wait generated anguish and uncertainty. At times, Abraham and Sarah may have questioned whether the promise would be fulfilled and how God could accomplish what seemed impossible. Faced with the delay in conceiving a child, Sarah suggested to Abraham that he take Hagar as a concubine so that she could have children through her. Abraham agreed, and Hagar became pregnant. During the time Abraham lived, around the 2nd millennium BC, societies were often nomadic, and family ties and marriages were of extreme importance. Practices such as having a servant conceive children were a cultural response to the pressures of ensuring descendants and inheritance. The impatience, mainly from Sarah, in trying to fulfill the divine promise through human means would have disastrous consequences, resulting in conflicts between Sarah and Hagar. These conflicts highlight the adverse consequences of decisions based on impatience and lack of trust in God's plans. The atmosphere became unbearable to the point where Sarah threatened Hagar with death. Feeling oppressed and out of place, Hagar fled to the desert in search of relief. In the desert, Hagar found herself alone, facing the uncertainties of the arid environment. It was in this moment of solitude and affliction that an angel of the Lord appeared to Hagar. The angel brought a comforting and prophetic message, revealing that the son Hagar carried in her womb would be named Ishmael. The angel also prophesied about Ishmael's future, describing him as a wild man, but blessed by God. This divine intervention in the desert not only brought comfort to Hagar, but also conferred significant purpose on the son she carried. The name Ishmael means God heard, reflecting the divine response to Hagar's suffering and circumstances. Thus, Hagar returned to Abraham's house, and later Ishmael was born. Abraham did not hide his love for Ishmael, his firstborn son. In Genesis 17:18, it is cited, "And Abraham said to God, 'If only Ishmael might live under your blessing.'" Abraham, concerned about Ishmael's fate and perhaps anxious for God's promise to be fulfilled through him, asked God to bless Ishmael. However, God had specific plans for fulfilling his promise of a great nation through Abraham's lineage. In response to Abraham's request, God renews his promise and establishes a specific covenant with Abraham. In Genesis 17:19-21, God says to Abraham, "Yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful, and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation." God reaffirmed his promise of a great nation through Ishmael, but highlights that the specific covenant of the promise would be established through the son that Sarah would bear, named Isaac. Eventually, the improbable happens. God, fulfilling his promise, reveals to Abraham that Sarah, despite her advanced age, will conceive and bear a son. This news is initially met with disbelief by both Sarah and Abraham. Upon hearing the announcement, Sarah, already elderly, laughs internally as the idea of conceiving in old age seems absurd. This laugh reflects a mixture of surprise, disbelief, and perhaps a touch of resignation in the face of the apparent impossibility of the situation. God, perceiving Sarah's laughter, asks why she laughed, highlighting the singularity of the event that is about to occur. The birth of Isaac occurs according to the divine promise. Isaac means laughter, and his name is directly linked to Sarah's initial laugh. The consequences of this event are profound. First, it marks the fulfillment of a divine promise that seemed impossible to human eyes. Sarah's initial disbelief is transformed into realized faith with Isaac's birth. Additionally, this event has implications for family relations, especially in the dynamics between Isaac, Ishmael, Hagar, and Sarah. Isaac's arrival increases family tensions, culminating in the expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael, illustrating the complexities resulting from human choices and the fulfillment of divine promises. The initial rejection by Sarah and the subsequent expulsion to the desert leave Ishmael and Hagar in a difficult situation. The family dynamic is marked by tensions and feelings of abandonment. Ishmael, as the rejected son, faces issues of identity and belonging. In the desert, Hagar and Ishmael experience loneliness and uncertainty. The Bible highlights Hagar's anguish at seeing her son suffer and Ishmael's struggle to adapt to an unfavorable environment. At a critical moment, Hagar and Ishmael's situation in the desert becomes desperate. The water runs out, and they face the prospect of dying of thirst. In her suffering, Hagar places Ishmael under one of the bushes and moves away, unable to bear seeing her son perish. At this critical moment, God intervenes. An angel of the Lord calls to Hagar from heaven and asks what is troubling her. The angel then tells Hagar not to be afraid and promises that God has heard Ishmael's cry. The angel reveals that God will make a great nation from Ishmael. God then opens Hagar's eyes, and she sees a well of water nearby. Hagar goes to the well, fills the skin with water, and gives it to Ishmael to drink. This well, miraculously provided by God, saves Hagar and Ishmael's lives in the desert. After the divine intervention that provided water in the desert, Ishmael and Hagar continued to live in the desert of Paran. Ishmael grew up, became an expert hunter, skilled with the bow, and his mother, Hagar, provided an Egyptian marriage for him. The Bible mentions that Ishmael had 12 sons who are considered the ancestors of various Arab tribes. The biblical verse dealing with this phase of Ishmael's life in Genesis cites, God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. This period in Ishmael's life highlights his skill and adaptability to desert life, as well as the continued presence of God's blessing upon him. The choice of an Egyptian wife from the tribe of Juram also underscores the cultural connections between Ishmael and the surrounding region. The Bible also records the marriage of Isaac's son, Esau, to Ishmael's daughter. So Esau went to Ishmael and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth, and daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. The biblical account does not offer extensive details about Ishmael's adult life. However, there is a later reference that mentions Ishmael alongside Isaac in the context of Abraham's death. Genesis 25 states, "His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron son of Zohar the Hittite, the field Abraham had bought from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah." This passage indicates that despite the challenging initial circumstances, Ishmael and Isaac, half-brothers, reunited to bury their father, Abraham. The biblical account mentions Ishmael's death, but does not specify the cause. These are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. He breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. The term Ishmaelite is used to describe Ishmael's descendants, who became a great nation according to the divine promise made to Hagar and Abraham. This lineage is often associated with nomadic peoples inhabiting the desert regions near the Arabian Peninsula. Thus, the name Ishmael became not only a designation for a specific lineage, but also a relatively common name frequently cited in the Bible. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Leave comments below about where you are watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hugs, and may God be with you.